Well, hey everyone, welcome to In the Kitchen. Super excited. We have kind of a little in-person going on with Justin and I in the same room. I'm Weston Lombard, joined by Justin Courtney, Joey Steele, and of course Tom House. Today's a pitchers roundtable, so we just have a bunch of questions that we're going to talk about on the pitching development side. Really, it's going to be kind of fair game for Joey, Justin, and I, and Tom just to come up with questions, and we'll kind of get started. I think a good first question to talk about is, Tom, you've worked with Justin now for a few years and Joey for, I think, what, like a decade or something like that. You guys have been working together for a long time.
Long time.
What have you kind of seen out of these guys over the years that has been kind of the biggest improvement for them?
Well, they both love the game. Their work ethic is solid, and they've managed over the years to get better every year. And they're both tapping at the door of being a successful elite pitcher on the pro level. And where they are right now is they're independent big pitchers in a game where getting an affiliated team to sign you have to have parameters that never existed before. If you're a right-handed pitcher, if you're not sitting 94, 95 and showing 96, 97, you're what we used to call an AARP, another average right-handed pitcher. Now, this is what drives me nuts. Both Joey and Justin are finally learning how to be a pitcher. They actually know how to pitch. And their maturity level is way ahead of their, what I would call, baseball level. The game sees them at, you guys are, if I remember correctly, 27 and 28, correct?
Yeah.
So
Right.
affiliated baseball looks at them like they're pretty much too old, when really those are the best years that pitchers put up. All the productive years, unless you're a Hall of Famer, take place primarily between age 26 and age 32. And in our windows of trainability, that is your skill acquisition window. And unfortunately, what has happened right now, for about 8, maybe 9 years, the radar gun has decided whether you're a prospect or not. Now the game is changing a little bit, and I believe this to the bottom of my heart, that if it hadn't been for COVID, both Joey and Justin would be in the big leagues right now. They hit that crease where COVID and access and minor leaguers that actually unionized, it was like the perfect storm to keep you from being, from having a job that you deserve. Now, both of them are still in the hunt. They still have a chance, but wherever they go, they're going to have to put numbers up. And Joy, you and Justin and I talked about this today. When you get your next shot, you're going to have to put huge numbers up. And Joey, your numbers as a minor leaguer are pretty darn good. Justin, you've shown flashes, but you don't have as many innings in the minor leagues under your belt as Joey does. But what both of you are suffering from right now are the fact that you're perceived by affiliated baseball as being a little old for where you've achieved success in the minor leagues. But we talk about it every day. Every day you go to the ballpark. That is your Hall of Fame day. And you can't worry about anything else but that. And your chance is going to come. And then what pressure, and it's the same going to be with you, Weston. When you get your next chance, what pressure am I putting on all three of you guys? You have to do what?
You got to be ready.
Yeah, you got to not only be ready, but you have to put some numbers in. You have to make someone like you and go out on a limb and take a chance to give you a shot at a real job in AAA or the big leagues, and you'll be fine. I think both of you are ready. And for the people that are listening to this conversation, surprisingly, experience is learning what you can't do. It's not just putting numbers up. But both you guys know now what works and what doesn't work. And the more you understand the balance between those two things, the less time you're gonna waste working at things that aren't gonna work. Does that make sense, guys?
Totally. It's awesome. Let's go to Joey. So Joey, you're the one of the three of us, the only one who's fortunate enough to get drafted. I know your draft story is a little bit different than a lot of other guys. Tell us a little bit about the story of you getting drafted. Were you someone that was, talking to a lot of teams before? Were you expecting to get drafted? Did you kind of know you were going to be drafted? Tell us about that story.
Well, yeah, I mean, do you want I can give you a really long one, or I'll just give kind of a shortcut version of it. But so I did my 4 years at University of San Francisco, and my senior year, go Dons, Weston.
Go Dons. Go Dons.
I was kind of like never a guy that like was ever, got any letters from teams or had any interviews with any of the teams that but I remember at the end of my senior year, I asked my coach, I was like, do you think there's any chance of even getting picked up by a team? And he was kind of like, well, we can maybe try to get you a free agent sign and go from there. So I was already set to go to grad school and get my major or my graduate degree in sports management, and also play golf at USF because I worked that angle somehow, and that was going to come into play. But yeah, I think that, I mean, once the draft happened, the third day rolled around, and my name popped up on the board. I mean, I remember I was playing golf when it happened. I said, well, if anything good happens today, it'll probably be on a golf course. So I went to the golf course early that morning, and there happened to be a women's tournament going on, so I couldn't get on the course. So I had breakfast and went to the range, and then me and Weston's coach Giordano texted me and said that the Rays had texted him twice about me and to stay hopeful, which it actually happened to be the Marlins. And yeah, so like I was playing on I hit my first drive. I duck hooked it into the trees. Cause at that point I was like, oh my God, maybe I actually will get drafted. And then went to go get my ball, took my phone, and found out on Twitter. And to me, that was, to this day, still one of the cooler moments I've had. And I even remember calling Tom, and he was like, I told you so. And I was like, I guess that adds up. But it was a cool story because like I didn't have any intentions of getting drafted, and it happened. And I think like it just kind of goes to show, like, if you continue to do the right things and stay with, like, I just enjoyed playing the game and felt like I was doing the right things, and I felt like I deserved a shot, and it happened. So it was a pretty cool feeling, and like it kind of just reassured me that like kind of like anything is possible, I guess, that if you do continue to push your limits and continue to want to get better, that some things may just fall into your lap that you wouldn't have ever thought of happening. And that's kind of my story on the draft, because it really wasn't supposed to happen. And some nerd analytics guy in the Marlins found my name and asked why this guy hasn't been drafted, and the rest is history. So it was a cool story. I thought it's obviously a precious story to me, and a very memorable moment in my life.
That's so awesome. That's sweet. Justin, you have a little bit different of a story, right? You were signed as a free agent a couple years removed out of college, right?
Yep.
Tell us kind of about your story. Like, how did you end up getting picked up? What were you doing after you graduated? Like, what did the timeline look like? Who saw you? How did you end up getting that opportunity?
Yeah, so For me, I had a pretty good success at the University of Maine when I first started. I was a freshman All-American and had a Cape contract my sophomore year and pitched pretty well, at the 4 years that I was there. So I thought for sure, my senior year comes around. I turned down money from the Phillies as a free agent sign after my junior year. Figured I could get basically the same deal the year after, finish up school and maybe get a little bit more money, actually get drafted, and went back to school. My senior year was 2018, and that was it started off really great. I was starting on Fridays still, and popped in 92 to 95. My first outing, like I was, on the cloud nine.
You're
Basically, I was locked in. I felt like, okay, this is going to be the year. And 3 weeks after that, my UCL is completely torn, and I'm out for the next 11 months. So got a red shirt that year and finished up school. A year later, I pitched a little bit up and down. Just didn't quite recover as well as I could have maybe, and I rushed back to get into a game 11 months later. So college started really well and kind of trailed off, and scouts weren't really calling, and I was more trying to just find a way to stay in it. And because I knew if I could get healthy that I had a chance to pitch, and I know that I was good enough to get people out. So it was more about find a way to stay in it, I was around it with teaching some lessons to local kids in the area. And because I'd gone through a whole bunch of rehab with Dr. Andrews' group in Birmingham. So I'd started to learn about biomechanics and the lab that they had down there when I was doing some physical therapy, and learned a lot of stuff through the rehab process. And really what I learned is it kind of all just scratched the surface of what was behind the curtain of that facility down there. So COVID happens, and I was expecting to go play indie ball and get healthy and prove to people that I was still good, and nobody played during COVID. So I was looking for places to train, and this new app called Mustard just appeared, and thought that it would be a pretty good way for me to assess if my mechanics were pretty good and what I could get out of, because I thought for sure I could throw in the mid 90s consistently and get picked up. And sure enough, Tom sees a video that he likes of me and runs it through the app, and we do some remote work during COVID. And then Tom calls me right as things open up in California in 2021. Hey, I've got a camp happening in 3 days, this stat camp. Can you get out here? Like, it's 3,000 miles away, but yeah, sure, I'll take a flight. And 6 days later, after the stat camp, I've got a contract with the Angels. Tom set me up actually with a workout with the Padres. And this workout with the Padres was at a little league field that had, the mound. Basically, there was 3 home plates, a 46, a 50, and a 60. And Tom brings out the general manager of the Padres, AJ Preller, the director of pro scouting, Pete DeYoung. Guys are still up there right now. They drive up to this little league field, and I just maxed myself out at this stat camp like 2 or 3 days early. Tom sets up this workout and calls me like an hour or two before. Hey, I'm not going to make it. I got to make this Zoom meeting with Tom Brady. The Super Bowl's coming up on Sunday, and this workout is happening on a Wednesday or Thursday. And literally the Super Bowl is 3 days later. So he's like, Justin, I'd love to be there, and I'd love to help you get through this workout, but gotta attend to some business here. So
Yeah.
Good luck with the Padres. And sure enough, the Padres had every opportunity to sign me. I think I threw a pretty good bullpen for them, and made a good impression, at least what I thought. And shortly after, they were kind of like, well, we'll see how things go. We'll get back to you, give me the runaround a little bit. So I sent some stuff to the Angels, and they noticed that AJ Preller was standing in the back of the video, and they're like, what the heck? Like, okay, we'll offer you a contract so you don't go to the Padres. And I went with it because I knew the Padres weren't gonna do anything. And I think Tom maybe got a call after the fact, like, hey, why didn't where'd our boy go? Like AJ called him or somebody called him. But anyways, that's for another another story, but I got a contract with the Angels done about 6 weeks after coming out or 6 days after coming out to San Diego, and the rest is history. I haven't really left San Diego since.
That's awesome.
And
I
the
mean,
thing that you have to listen between the lines there, he jumped on a plane with no understanding of anything other than come on out here and let's see what it looks like. And that's because both these kids, well, you too, Weston, you have a passion for the game. And I'm 78 years old and I still get excited about going to the ballpark, even hanging out with you guys. So the passion has to be there. Now it gets tested. Joey, I know you feel like you've been beating your head against the wall the last 3 months. But if you still have the desire to play, if you still want to play, you got to play until you can. And that's what keeps both of you guys going. And then, you know, this cloud of bad luck follows Justin everywhere he goes. How many pitchers did the Angels draft in June that year?
They used every single one of their picks to select college pitchers that were all 3 years younger than me, and they all got 10 times the amount of signing bonus that I got. So when they were looking at rosters, they said, Justin, you can leave now.
But can we extend that story?
That's
There was one guy in our network that I'd known since he was a bat boy with the Texas Rangers when I was there. That was one of the lead scouts for the Mets. And he had seen you pitch and turn in a report on you that you were a big leaguer waiting to happen. So when you got released by the Angels, we made that call to the Mets. And you only have to have one guy that believes in you. And that's what happened. You got another opportunity with the Mets. And then what happened with the Mets?
Well,
Go ahead.
what happened with the Mets was it was really great because I got a really good year in 2022, did well for myself, got to AA, and then 2023 got to AAA and pitched in some major league spring training games, which was really cool. But then the Mets decided around the All-Star break that they are going to sell the entire big league roster that they just paid the most money to ever assemble. They're going to sell all those players for AA, AAA, mostly pitching. So Justin, you can go ahead and hit the streets because we paid these guys a lot more money, like Justin Verlander and Max Scherzer. So Justin, sorry about your luck. You're on the streets again. Go look for another job. So that was some bad luck too there. And now this year, the minor leagues, there's a limit on now the number of players you can keep in the organization. So there's some stuff behind the scenes, some luck that hasn't rolled my way, but I feel like if I get another chance and when I get another chance, I've gone through enough and seen enough to what actually is going on to, you know, I can jump on this next opportunity that I get.
Yeah, and you're both ready. I know now I can look you both in the face and say that you have enough experience under your belt that wherever you go, and you guys have jobs. We all know that you can play independent ball and you got a commitment from a team to put you on the roster. You just have to go get people out and wait for that one scout or that one assistant general manager that sees and likes and signs you. So that's where we're at with that.
I love it. That's a good point. Joey, you've been fortunate enough to work with Tom from, you know, when you were a lot younger than, you know, a lot of other people. What do you think was the biggest, you know, advantage to working with Tom with how young you were, right? And like, how do you think that kind of helped give you the opportunity to go play Division I baseball? Because we've talked about draft, right? But a lot of the people that are listening and use the app, they're younger players, they're, you know, youth, they're middle school, high school. Like the first goal is Division I baseball. Like what do you think you learned and you know, tell us about kind of your progression.
I mean, okay, so I guess like the first time I ever met Tom, I was 9 years old. So I think like
You're so lucky. You are so lucky.
I mean, it was kind of, I don't know how it happened. I think my dad looked it up and maybe.
Yeah, I don't
San
remember
Diego. I still remember going to the first time I ever went there, and we were on some field, and then there was some facility, and then some dog that you could tell to go to the dugout, and it would just like run to the dugout. I don't know whose dog that was,
The
but
dog was smarter than us, our IQ.
yeah,
put together.
exactly. But yeah, I think that was kind of the start of it, I think. And like, I think what kept me around was I think my dad saw that I was having fun with it, I think. And then Tom was down at SC, at Dado Field, in LA. And again, kind of found my way over there as well. I even got to hang out with I don't know if any, you guys that are watching or Weston or obviously the $1 Million Arm, right?
Mhm.
Those two Indian guys that got sent to the States to learn how to pitch. Like I worked out with them a few times.
That's awesome.
So I just got to kind of be around, and Tom let me come, like he let a 12 or 10-year-old kid kind of pal around with his, these two guys. And I got to see USC, which I'm a huge USC. I come from a massive USC family, and I was cool to be able to kind of be in that area. And then eventually Tom invited or gave me the opportunity to come to like a summer camp when I was probably a sophomore, maybe a freshman in high school for the summers.
Exactly. Do you remember how you weren't healthy the whole time? You hurt your back.
Well, in high school, we had a lot of stuff we had to deal with. But I think like through over the process of working with Tom, I think like what I gained the most is how important process is, and that was one thing I think he kind of drilled into my head. And then a lot of the young guys when we were there, that's kind of what he would preach of being more involved and put more of your effort on the process and the way that you go about preparing to pitch than actually the result. And I
Mhm.
think for whatever reason that clicked in my head, and I kind of fell in love with the process when I was young, and I just kind of carried me to where I am. So just like he set a precedent of how I should look at the game, I think. And the way that I viewed the game allowed me to understand that, like, okay, if I look at it this way, I'm going to give myself a better chance to stay in the game rather than looking at it that like in the other lens of like success and failure. Because a lot of it didn't happen till late. Like it really didn't happen till about my freshman year of college, maybe, like where all the pieces started to like show, not like completely, but like it was because of just, I think, I was able to continue with like the process that Tom had taught me, and just I became obsessed with it. I just became obsessed with it. Like it was all that I worried about. And then eventually like the results started to just pop up whether what I didn't even really it was just happenstance that stuff started to happen. And I think that's kind of what has kept me in the game and kept me almost like sane up until this point, is like the only thing I can control in this game is the way that I go about my process. And it's super important to me.
Yeah.
The way I
And
do it.
what you might share, all three of you, there's days that you're frustrated. There's days you get depressed. There's days that you don't feel right physically. But that's all part of the experience that becomes knowledge that allows you, when the time is right, put all the pieces of the puzzle together. And for the people that are listening, as parents, as coaches, as girlfriends or wives or mothers, the number one priority is you guys still have fun. Do we have, like, we all worked out today? Did we laugh a little bit today?
We did.
When you do something well, and when you do something right, that feeling you get when you do something right and you go, aha, that doesn't happen a whole lot in the real world. When you go to the ball field and you actually get to do something you're passionate about, you can find something to laugh about every day, and something when you're driving home you can feel good about. And that's the hook of baseball.
Yeah, you do a good job
Can I
keeping it
add
light.
something too, just about Tom?
Sure, go
My
ahead.
experience. And I think early on, like he attests to that kind of feeling you get to go when you go home and you feel like you've gotten better. I think Tom has been very good at being able to at least give me, growing up when I was a kid and through the thick of it, like that was the one thing that stood out to me about him being a coach is his ability to, when you leave working with him, that you felt like you got better and that there is something that you can use to go forward with. And I think that is a rare quality to have in a coach. And I think he does it better than anyone that I've come across. And I think that is one of the major reasons why, like, I've stayed around for this long, and also just what's kept me, it's just inherently kept me going.
But when you guys screw up for you, I let you know. I mean, it isn't all kumbaya moments.
No, it's not all
But
kumbaya.
when you, yeah, but when when you need a little talking to, I'll bark at you.
Exactly.
But we always leave the field with something to look forward to and feeling good about ourselves on that given day.
Yeah. I mean, Justin or Joey explained it really well, and it's something that's why I love when I get the opportunity to come down and train, because it is special, like the environment of training with you, Tom. And you do feel like when you leave, you feel good about what you did, and you feel excited to come back to the field tomorrow. And, when there's
huge.
definitely times when you don't feel like that, but I think it's pretty unique to be able to show up to the field consistently and leave the field feeling like that.
And the thing that's, we all have mustard on our foreheads. The bottom line there is we now have something that ties together even a larger group. We've been trying to democratize the information and instruction that the younger generation gets the same effect and efficiency the big boys get. And with mustard, you have in your hand as a mom and dad or a little league coach the exact same data that our big boys get. Can I share our little story about you guys dropped by my house on the way to where you are right now? And we looked at motion analysis from 2008.
Yeah.
And how far have we come since that time? And it continues to get better. And that's what I'm excited about. These get-togethers that we have, these in the kitchen things, there's sometimes that they're really easy to talk about. There's sometimes when the questions that come from the people that call in don't make a whole lot of sense, but we are actually helping athletes get better. And they're taking ownership of the information. And that's pretty cool. Now, you guys saw some huge, can I tell you my draft story?
Yeah.
Okay. And you can back me up, Justin and Weston. I won a lot of ball games in high school. I'm not even saying that. I only lost 2 in 4 years. I had 3 games that were nothing, 10 inning ties, where I struck out 22, 19, and 17. I threw 4 no-hitters in a perfect game. Where do you think I was drafted by the Cubs after that high school, after those 4 years of high school? What round do you think I was drafted by the Cubs?
Should have been, I mean, based on the numbers, top 5 pick, first round, maybe slip to the second.
I was in the 40th round. So I went to USC. So I go to USC off of a huge high school. I mean, I'm a stud. I walk on the field at Ben Bovard Field, thinking that I am just the cat's meow. So Coach Dado has me throwing next to this monster, and I didn't know who it was. And Coach Dado comes up, puts his hand on my shoulder and says, "Tommy House, what do you think of young Tom Seaver?" Well, for those of you that are too young to know, Tom Seaver is a Hall of Famer. And he's there pumping 98 to 100, and I'm shooting my little dab up there. And I said, "Rod, if you need me to do that, you got the wrong left-hander. He said, no, no, no. Just like I told you guys, I need you to be the best you that you can be, Joey. That's all you can do. Be the best you that you can be. Throw that curveball, throw that changeup, hold runners close, be durable, and you'll both play pro ball. You're both going to win 30 games or more. But I'll guarantee you that if you try to be Tom Seaver, it's not going to work. So one of those lessons is be yourself, be the best you can be. So I ended up being 33-5 in the years that I was at USC. When do you think I got drafted after that by the Braves?
Top 5 rounds, maybe.
Same 40th round. Why? No, they're not dumb. I'm a 5'9" lefty with no fastball. But Rod was right. How did I get people out? By being me. Curveballs, change-ups, holding runners close, feeling my position, and being durable. So there is a niche for everybody that's watching this. And if you're the best you can be, and the best prepared you can be, and you only get to college, you're a big leaguer in baseball's eyes. But you kids that give up because it's too hard or you're not getting the feedback you need, if you love the game like I know you kids do, there's no reason for you not to go to the ballpark preparing yourself to be better every day. And that's all we can do. And organizations like Mustard, and if you can find a school, there's a college program out there for everybody. You just have to look for them. And that combination of your passion for the game, finding an organization that will give you the information and the instruction to get better, and then you taking responsibility for having fun and making you be the best you can be, that is a recipe for playing at the higher level. Did that make sense, guys?
Yeah.
For sure.
And we should, I hope we get some questions from people that are watching this, especially from moms and dads who wonder how their kids are ever going to play at an elite level. It's one step at a time.
Yep.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Speaking of one step at a time, Justin, you were someone that really did have to take it one step at a time after, you hurt your arm the first time. And, you've made some really big velocity gains over the past couple of years.
This year specifically.
Yeah, let's talk about it this year specifically then. Tell us about kind of what the game plan was, what changes you've seen, whether it's mechanically, physically, mentally. What do you think was the difference between you throwing in the low 90s and now throwing, mid 90s in bullpens? And, we'll see what happens when you start getting under the lights. Hopefully we'll be seeing some upper 90s. But what do you think is the difference between that Justin and the Justin now?
Perspective, for one. I have seen baseball through a different lens. I think now being kind of got to AAA and it made it up and saw some things in the big league clubhouse last spring with the roster that was there with the Mets. Obviously, Scherzer, Verlander, Lindor, Alonso. I mean, the lineup was loaded, and they had veteran pitching too. David Robertson was the closer, and Brooks Raley. I mean, the perspective that I've kind of gained with, okay, these guys are just normal people. The big leagues is this magical, mythical place that only, freaks are allowed to go play in. Like that to me was like, okay, last spring I really started to see, what, I could do this. Like and I think having that belief was a big thing to at least get me on the path to, okay, I had some bad luck. I didn't pitch very well last year. I got released. Like I should have got released with what I was doing. I wasn't good enough. And, but I had seen what could have been and the opportunity that was presented. Like I was immediately like way more committed to, okay, whatever is in my control now, I've got to put all the chips in the middle and find a way to make it work and get back, because the opportunity is there. And it was so cool to be like on the AAA team where we got guys making debuts, and like you are that close when you're there. And for me, this winter or the off season, this whole, I knew the thing that was missing was velocity. The Mets literally told me, if you're 94 to 96 with your stuff, like you're got a chance to be in the big league bullpen at some point. So I was like, awesome. Like I should try to do that. Like that sounds pretty great. And I think the whole spring I was 91, 93. So really not even close to that number. And I think just the mentality that I had last year of trying to fit in, of trying to just be comfortable and not really go outside the box and not really put everything out on the line, because the double bind that Tom talks about, where you're trying to keep your job rather than do your job, that came into play. So that's having the perspective of those experiences and looking at it from like, okay, now that I know all this, it really doesn't matter what anybody else says about me as the profile that I have as a whatever teams look at me when they pull up my scouting report. That doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter that I didn't get the opportunity. Like that, nobody's going to come and find me because I wasn't a first rounder. I didn't get $1 million. Like I'm going to have to earn every little bit of this. So the perspective of it's going to be solely on my shoulders that this is going to happen. So just recommitting to that process of, all right, in training, we know exactly what we have to go after. That was a big help from Tom, and we did it. It's probably all started in October when the NPA came to Bangor, Maine, and did a clinic. And really, Tom had this new crazy idea of what about if we just get your nervous system to go faster, because the strength is there, the injuries, you're not hurt. You can really get to a point where your body is just all out speed training. And sure enough, my body kind of adjusted to this new threshold, kind of broke through this ceiling where I couldn't get past 92, 93. And we were throwing the 2-ounce ball, and the weightlifting that I was doing was a lot more explosive and trying to move everything fast, and just a big emphasis on being as explosive and powerful and athletic, and just not really worrying about where the ball is going, because I was really trying to be really fine with my misses. I was facing big league hitters for the first time, and I thought I had to make perfect pitches in order to get them out. And for one thing, people listening out there, big league pitchers and big league hitters, like the strike zone is what it is. Like the hitter will make you throw the ball over the plate. Like they're not going to chase. And big league umpires will make you throw it in the zone too. They're not going to give you a ball on the chalk for a strike. So you really have to find out how to get guys out in the zone. So I was being a little bit too perfect and trying to nibble, where my mentality now is just to let it fly and, see what happens there. I'll just give you my best fastball. And if it ended up a little bit too much on the plate, well, it's got 100% of my conviction behind it, and we'll see what happens. But the coolest moment was when I was throwing bullpens at 91 to 93, which was my game velocity last year, in like the middle of November.
Right.
And I'm thinking to myself, all right, this is pretty cool. Like I was literally doing this in games and struggling to touch 93, and I'm doing it every day in the bullpen whenever I want. So it kind of gave me the excitement of like, all right, let's go do this. I've had a pretty good run. I've had really good ups and downs. I mean, you can go back and pull the numbers. They don't look super great. But the ERA, there's more to it than just when you read the box score. So to me, it's going to be fun to go pitch this year with some better weapons and just a better mentality, and really show people what I'm able to do, because it doesn't really matter what they think. I'm pitching my game and going out there and put all the chips on the table and see what happens.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
I'm going to blow a little smoke Joey's way. Joey has been a very successful minor league pitcher, and it's driving him nuts. He gets people out. He gets people out wherever he goes. But the velo thing is kicking him in the rear end. And you came back. How many runs did you give up in Australia the whole time you were there? 4,
Four.
and it was one pitch for the grand slam. That was it, right?
That was
And you
it.
had like, what, 72 innings? And that was all the runs you gave up?
Well, it was 40 game season, so that'd be a lot. It was more like 30. But if you add in the Lexington season, that was 90 innings.
And you're sitting in the same spot that Justin is. So the game is harsh. And you can't, if you're doing everything you can do to be the best you can be, and your expectations are tied to that, then you either play or you don't, but you can't take it personally when baseball either turns its back on you or doesn't pay attention when you're giving it everything you got. You just have, as long as you have a uniform and a place to play, you got a chance. And that literally, if there's kids listening to us right now, I don't care if you're 12 years old or you're a 78-year-old kid like I am. I might be 78 in the years, but I'm still a 12 or a 13-year-old with my passion for the game. If you love to play the game, you can't let what someone else thinks about you affect the way you feel about yourself.
Right. No, that's very wise stuff. I mean, speaking of that, like if you do look at, if you're fortunate to look at Joey's stat line over the last few years, one thing you'll see is that he strikes a lot of dudes out. What do you think it is, Joey, about your stuff? Like, right, we've just talked about like velocity development, but like there's a whole nother side of it of getting dudes out. And pitchers love to strike people out. It's one of the favorite things. What do you think it is about your stuff or your approach or as you go into the game? Like, why do you think you're so successful at striking so many people out? Because you average, I mean, you've consistently averaged over 9 strikeouts per 9 innings.
No, yeah. I mean, I think a lot of it comes down to being able to execute. And then I have thrown the 3 pitches that I throw, I've been able to command. And so I can make my 91 to 93 look 103 if I want to. And I think that's kind of where I started to understand the effective and perceived velocity idea firsthand, because like you kind of you go through a phase of like you throw your stuff and you see what it does, right? You kind of have an idea, and then you start to understand how to get them out with where the location of the pitch is. So, and then I also figured out kind of where my stuff played the best through the analytics nowadays. And once I figured out how my stuff played, it all just came down to my execution, which at USF was a huge, in college, well, that was a major thing that we harped on. So it kind of led into almost a little bit of a perfect storm of being able to step back and analyze how my stuff was playing and being able to understand where in the zone I can throw my pitches and then get people out in the zone, like Justin was saying. Because that's a big thing now is like once you get up into the higher levels, guys don't as much swing outside of the zone. So you kind of have to practice working on how to make your pitches look like strikes and not be strikes. And then being able to, I think with the fastball, what's come is my awareness of where I know I can't get beat with it. And that's kind of, I think it's person to person. I don't know for a fact, but just from my standpoint of being aware of like the game itself and how I compete and just kind of what I'm aware of is like, okay, I have an area in my head where I know that my fastball will not get hit hard. And if I can play my fastball in that place and throw my other pitches off of it, then it makes it really hard to time me up. And then when you're with 2 strikes, I can make it look like a strike and go outside the zone. So then that's, I think, where a lot of the punch outs were coming is from just being able to execute really good breaking balls, change-ups, and then fastballs that kind of just played at the top, but like almost just hovered right above it. So they wanted it, but they couldn't really get to it. And then just working on consistently keeping my breaking ball stuff down. And that was the biggest thing I think I've learned this year of when I struggled a little bit is where I missed to get hit. And that was something that in my head, that's what I was focused on, is if I did get hit, where was I getting hit and why? And what part of the plate and what was the count? And a lot of the stuff that I ran into was the ahead of the counts, the breaking balls and the changeups, or the fastballs that were left in the middle of the zone. So
wild in the strike zone.
yeah, and I think like for me, the biggest thing is just been able, like I have just become an understander of how my stuff plays and how I can maneuver it to get people out.
It's a really, really good in-depth
if
answer.
If you three guys were 21 to 23, you would all have jobs right now in spring training. But the one thing that's working against you, not so much you, Weston, because you're left-handed and you're 23 now or 24.
I'm 25 now.
Okay, well, I lied so much about my age when I was going through it. I really don't know how.
My arm's like 22, 21,
Yeah.
maybe even younger.
Left-handers are held to a different standard. But again, you're fighting the age factor now. But if you watch like the World Series, the second starter for the Arizona Diamondbacks he's gone through both year routes where he had to play independent ball. He went to Korea, came back from Korea, got a job as a AAA guy, and I think he was one of the most successful pitchers in the big leagues last year, stat-wise, and is making a whole lot of money right now. So you just have to keep going to war until there's nowhere to go to.
I love it. Well, and I think it's important for people to realize what Joey was talking about when he was striking everyone out. He wasn't talking about, trying to strike him out on the first pitch or trying to make his stuff extra gross or extra nasty or trying to force a bunch of swings and misses early on. Like, he just had a plan and he executed it, and that led to him getting ahead in counts, and he knew where his stuff played and where it didn't. And so it doesn't have to be this really complicated process. A lot of the times it just comes down to, can you throw the pitches where you want them to go at the right time? And the strikeouts seemed to be kind of a byproduct of you just executing your plan, Joey.
Yeah, and I think that, it just kind of and then just being able to just kind of be aware of it as well, I think too, and see it from as yourself. And then the other thing I was going to add in is the third pitch is the equalizer. If you have three pitches, pitching is fun and really, really hard to get hit off of if you can throw three pitches.
3 pitches to 2 locations.
And I think like since I was 12, I've thrown the same curveball. I think it's taken, once I established a changeup, it just opened up everything. It opens up the whole entire plate. They don't know how to protect the whole plate. Hitters can only protect one side of the plate. You cannot expect a hitter to do the whole plate. And when you get that concept down and you start to mix in and you go away and you go slow away or soft in or wherever, and you just kind of play with them, and you can have the confidence to execute your pitch and throw it with conviction. Because a lot of the stuff I ran into this year was the pitches that I threw without conviction were the ones that hurt me the most. And that was one of the bigger things I've learned is how much conviction, and Tom will attest to this, is conviction in the wrong pitch is better than conviction in the right pitch.
Dead. As Nolan Ryan said, half the plate's yours, half the plate's mine.
Exactly.
So you don't know what half I'm taking.
Exactly, and they don't. And if you can mix up and down now, where the kind of the game is kind of shifted to a little bit, I think it's going to go back to just being able to do the whole plate. But like, it just having the third pitch when I could throw it, it was pretty lights out because I was able to. They didn't know they can't prepare for what they don't know is coming. I would tell people.
So Weston, are any of the people that are on call, would they like, it's a great opportunity to ask questions to three kids that are actually in the thick of baseball right now. I'm the old guy. There's not many times that you have a chance to talk to someone that can actually tell you what's happening in the pro game right now. Is there anybody online that needs to talk? Questions?
Yeah, there's a good question. Jeff asked, and I think it'll be interesting to hear kind of how all three of us think about it. But Jeff asked, how do you during the season, right? You're throwing 2 to 3 days a week. I think all three of us have thrown in a relief role before in a long season. How do you stay, strong throughout the season where you're still getting your best stuff? I think we can start with Justin. How do you keep your best stuff and be prepared to throw a couple days a week and not have it kind of deteriorate over the season?
That's been the biggest question that I'm trying to answer. And probably I find different ways to ask Tom for different little strategies and tips on how to do that almost every day. But my short answer to it is after the game, I'm trying to do something immediately to keep my arm moving and try to whether it's a workout or whether it's just ride the bike for 20 minutes. I'm not going to just pitch in the game and then just lay on the couch all night and do nothing. I'm going to try to really make sure to get my body moving a little bit, make sure the blood's still moving after the game, and trying to for me, it's really my elbow I have to stay on top of, but I'm always trying to do something right after the game. And I'm not just going to go sit up in the clubhouse and drink beers like some of my teammates really love to do. But you get to the beers after, maybe if you win or something. But seriously, it's all about, for me, trying to get something done right after the game. And then everything leading up to the next day, it would be all focused on recovery. So a lot of holds with weighted balls and things like that, to not so much take things out of your arm before the game, because there's still a chance you could throw on back-to-back days. But for me, it's trying to immediately after the game do something that's going to help me the next day to get back in the game.
That's great. I think I agree with a lot of that. I think mine was a little different, or it's changed, I guess, in the last few years, where I used to always, think about, what's the best recovery exercise or the best band stuff. And I realized that even if I did the right stuff there, if I wasn't taking care of the really big things like sleep, nutrition, and hydration, it really didn't move the needle much for me. So for me, it was, once I started really dialing in, like, okay, if I pitched, I'm getting, as much sleep as I can that night, and I'm drinking as much water, I'm eating as much food that day. And I felt like that was really what moved the needle the most for me in terms of feeling, prepared to throw the next day. And of course, you still have to do like what you were talking about of, getting the arm moving, getting stuff flush, restoring range of motion. But I feel like if kids want to recover better, like, you got to take care of those big three things of the sleep, diet, and hydration before anything. Because like one exercise isn't gonna recover your arm as much as actually, getting sleep and stuff like that.
True. That's completely true.
How about you, Joey?
Yeah, I mean, looking back on my year this year, I threw 70 times. So I feel like I kind of have now with that under my belt, looking back on what I did, I think what stands out to me the most is how much I ran. Okay. I don't know how about you guys, but I ran a lot. I ran every day during the season. And I did, like, I just chose, it kind of went through phases where I was just doing dumbbells, but I just started to just do one thing of, like a recovery mode out, like a dumbbell cord or like the med ball. And I would do a lot of core as well. But the other thing I think that you have to also understand with pitching and being in the bullpen is like it's not always going to feel good, I think. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you kind of have to be a dog,
Yeah.
like you can't really think about it. And I think once I got tired enough and I stopped thinking about it, I felt better.
There's
Almost from a
totally something.
standpoint, it's like, I stick to my recovery stuff, and the recovery stuff is great. Like I'll do the stim a lot. I thought that worked for me really well. Like I would just throw that on and just chill. And obviously water and sleep, and making sure that you have the meals in before you play, like having the right nutrition. I think that was something that I noticed between playing so much, is what I felt if I didn't have enough and what I did when I did,
We
and
don't
how
have to
much
talk
of a
about what
difference
the
that
indie
made.
ball meals look like either. We can just
Right.
skip over the.
So, but being in indie ball and being a guy that like was gonna throw sometimes 4 to 5 times a week, you just got there comes a point in time where you're the adrenaline's gonna kick in, and you're not even gonna feel it. And two, like it's just like putting that all aside and just playing the game to win and competing and doing what you've been being paid to do in that day is to go pitch. And that was something that I think I learned about from just a standpoint, because I always was worried about, oh, I don't feel that good today. Well, it honestly doesn't even matter. And if you can get that and it took me a long time, and it took me 70 appearances in 1 year to figure it out, but I think it's more on the mental side of I am ready than the physical side of doing what you need to do. And that was kind of my take from this past year of how much of a mental game it is rather than as a physical game. And especially with the recovery, like you're going to do everything you're going to do. You're not always going to feel great, and you're not always going to have your best stuff. And then on top of not having your best stuff is being aware of how to compete with not having your best stuff, and how to win and how to get hitters out without having your best stuff, and how to maneuver through outings where you might not have your breaking ball, you might not have your changeup, you might not even have your fastball. But what are those things from the experience of being able to throw that much? I gained kind of a roadmap of when maybe if I don't have my stuff, what do I need to do to kind of, and based on what the game is telling you. And that's just like when you dive into it from just a pure competitive standpoint, you got to do whatever you got to do to get people out. And that's the name of the game. So from a recovery standpoint, you do all the recovery stuff, but don't hold on to it as like you're going to feel good every day.
Amen to that. I feel like we could talk probably for another 6 hours today. But unfortunately our time is up. Tom, do you have any last kind of remarks that you want to share with everyone?
Yeah, pitching beats hitting. I tell that to you guys every day. Pitching beats hitting. And you just have to believe that if you've prepared yourself with your process, when you go between the lines, I don't care if you're in a World Series game against the Ohtani or the best hitter in the game, you're going to get him out more than he's going to get you. And if you don't believe that, then you really shouldn't be a pitcher. Pitching beats hitting. Take it to the bank.
Take it to the bank. Well, Justin, Joey, Tom, thank you guys so much. This was a ton of fun. I'll see you guys tomorrow in person. And to everyone that hopped on today, thank you for joining in the kitchen, and we'll see you next week.